From Wrigley Field in Chicago, Memorial Day baseball between the Dodgers and the Cubs, two red-hot teams. Dodgers have won 6 of 7. Cubs have won 5 in a row and have the best record in baseball. And we say welcome inside Wrigley Field with Orel and Nomar. I'm Joe Davis. Alana Rizzo joins us in just a moment. Nomar, you were fortunate enough to play in this ballpark on a daily basis for a couple of years. It's a pretty darn special place.
Well, with the tradition of the Chicago Cubs and Wrigley, it really is a special place. I mean, when you walk in here, you just feel it. You feel the baseball tradition, and you recognize when you look out at the ivy as well. There's just little idiosyncrasies here that you just got to take in, you got to embrace, and especially when the team is playing as well as the Cubs too, the fans are really going to be into it and energized. It's just a special place. Keep the momentum you have from New York and carry it into this series.
Yeah, so they won 2 of 3 in New York. A big win last night, 4-2, with Adrian Gonzalez getting the game-winning hit, Orel in the 9th inning. Shift the attention to the Cubs, who have been the best team in baseball this year.
They have. The run differential's off the charts. If they kept this pace, it'd be like 400 between them and somebody else at the end of the year. That's ridiculous. The starting pitching, the highest guy in the rotation has a 3.19 ERA, and he's a bulldog, John Lackey. And then you go all the way down to Arrieta, who we get tomorrow. He's below 2 again and on a historic pace of wins, and exceptionally at home, especially at home. And I'll tell you what, the Cubs can score. It's a young, energetic team. They are going to bring it, the energy, every game.
Alex Wood will try and shut them down today, and Alex Wood has been really good over the last month or so. We'll dive into some of those numbers as this game rolls on. It is Memorial Day at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The opener of a 4-game set between the Cubs and Dodgers coming up. Wrigley Field, and plenty of Dodger fans filing in as well as the Dodgers and Cubs get ready to begin a 4-game series, and Jason Hamill leads the Cubs onto the field for the opener of this set. Two of the hottest teams in the National League right now. Dave Roberts pens out this lineup less than 24 hours after the finale in New York. Quick turnaround. The team getting in late last night, early this morning. And here's your starting 9 for the series opener. Utley, Seager, and Turner at the top. Last night's hero, Adrian Gonzalez, hits out of the cleanup spot. Then it's Peterson and Grandal. And in the bottom third of the order, Yasiel Puig, Carl Crawford making his first start since May 19th, and Alex Wood, who's done a nice job at the plate so far this year. Jason Hamill, guys, 33 years old, having a career year right now. Top 5 in the National League with that 2.17 ERA.
Yeah, an incredible season so far, and you see that record with 6-1. One of the big reasons why this Chicago Cubs team is 20 games over 500. And he's going to come at you with a fastball, slider, curveball, changeup mix. But most of that fastball, he throws over 50% of the time. But he stands 6'6", so he's really tall on the mound. So he tries to try to get on top and get some of that downward tilt with that fastball tailing to try to put you away with his slider and changeup. But it's definitely going to be a challenge for the Dodgers. He doesn't walk a whole lot, so be ready for some strikes.
His 4th organization, but he's had his most success here later in his career, being 33 years old with the Cubs, and has got off to this great start. They moved him on the rubber this year. He's got a great downward angle, as Nomar said, and he really hides the ball better now that he's on the third base side of the rubber.
Another veteran will stand in against him to get this game started. Chase Utley. So he gets a little bit nicer grading in Chicago than he did in the few games in New York, where he is public enemy #1 at this point. Off we go with ball 1 from Hamill. Closed captioning today is brought to you by Shumash Casino Resort, where we are all about you. Utley 4 for 12 in the series in New York. Drove in 9 runs, including that epic game on Saturday night. 1-1. Helping the Dodgers win 6 of their last 7 after they lost 6 of 7 to fall to a season worst 2 games below 500. Hamill home with a 1-1. On the edge, strike 2.
The overall record is not equal for these two teams, but coming into this series, it's about equal because both are hot and feeling good about themselves.
Chase Utley leading things off for the Dodgers, and the count runs even at 2-2. Slips out of Hamill's hand. Perfect day for baseball, huh, guys? 70 degrees. A bit windy, but it usually is here.
And it's such a good atmosphere here at Wrigley in Chicago with the fans. I mean, packed house already right from the first pitch.
You know, there's nothing like coming to Chicago as a visiting team. I know Nomar got to experience being a home player here, but even as a visitor, it gets your vibe, your whole inspiration, your adrenaline's going right from the bus ride through town along Lake Michigan.
This is a 3-2, and Utley takes strike 3. He's fooled by one that loops in there, and Hamill begins his afternoon with a strikeout.
Well, Chase Utley just freezes on this because you're thinking 3-2, beginning of the game. He doesn't want to walk me, and out of his hand, you're thinking maybe it's a fastball, and it started off as a ball. If it is a fastball, it would have been a ball, but then you don't pick up the spin right away. By the time you see it, it's a little bit too late. Then you're frozen for called strike 3.
So one away for Corey Seager, who had 2 hits in all 3 games in New York. The Dodgers dropping the opener 6-5, winning on Saturday 9-1. Seager had one of the 5 home runs in that Saturday night win, and the 4-2 win in the rubber match last night. Strike 1. Dodgers led that game last night 2-1 into the bottom of the 8th. The Mets tied it. Dodgers won at the top of the 9th. And you hate to on getaway day, especially when it's the quick turnaround, see that game get tied in the 8th inning and think, man, we're already going to have a short night of sleep.
When you play baseball long enough, you expect it. You're going, when are there going to be those extra inning games? And it seems like it's always on getaway days. Those one long night getaway days.
Seager over the top of that sharp slider that Hamill throws as often as anybody in baseball, and he Ks the first 2 Dodgers. There's Jason Hayward in center, 3-time Gold Glover, helping this defense, which right now is #1 in baseball as far as defensive efficiency. And all defensive efficiency is the ability to turn batted balls into outs. And guys, #2 on that list, the Dodgers. Justin Turner. 2 hits and 11 ABs against his former team, New York. Looks at ball 1. Hamill last pitched on Tuesday at St. Louis. Pitched into the 8th for the first time this season. Held the Cardinals to 1 run over 7 1/3.
Just seems like this Cub rotation, and like most rotations, when you have a tremendous ace like Clayton Kershaw, but it seems like they're not only feeding off Jake Arrieta, but they're also just really competing with each other to continue the ball rolling, passing the baton to having one quality start after quality start.
This beautiful sunshine day, Nomar, the shadows around home plate are not for visual problems, but for strategic problems, because you can see the catcher's shadow as a batter. Did you ever feel that or use that as a hitter?
You can see it out of the corner of your eye.
When he starts to move, I used to have my catcher, especially Mike Scioscia, who's such a big guy back there casting a very big shadow. I would tell, don't move. And if we do move, I want you to move early the wrong way. And then we'll shift out there late.
Next level thinker, Oral. 2-2 to Turner. He takes it outside, full count.
You couldn't do that as much with 2 strikes if you're going to bounce a breaking ball, because you want your catcher to be in the right position and be able to block it. But early in the count, when you don't care with nobody on base, you don't care if he misses the ball. It was a great way to get ahead of hitters and start to fool them like, you're not going to be able to find us.
Hamill trying to strike out the side in the first. Turner puts it in play. And battling that sunshine in right. Ben Zobrist gives it away to Hayward, who can't make the play. All right, after we tell you this is the best team in baseball at turning batted balls into outs, you see how bright that sun is. Hayward and Zobrist and Baez have problems with it.
Yeah, it didn't look like any one of them got a really good jump on this ball. And I think Justin Turner right out of the box was upset because it was a ball he just missed. I mean, it was a breaking ball that I think he recognized and just got underneath it. And you see Hayward calling everybody off, as you should. I mean, that's one of those, because you know that it is in like a Bermuda Triangle where you're like, everybody can crash in, and that's when you see collisions. So he just took charge and said, I got it early so everybody can at least get out of his way and give him room to try to make the play.
It's funny, you saw Alex Wood was on his way out of the dugout. He was certain that was the 3rd out, but instead Adrian Gonzalez bats with a man at first and 2 gone and takes ball 1. What a series this guy had in New York. 8 for 13. The game-winning 2-run single in the 9th last night. Turner at first with 2 gone. Former Dodger David Ross behind the plate. Sets outside with this 1-0 to Gonzalez. Ball 2. So the average back to 299 for Adrian. It's amazing how things even themselves out, not just over the course of a full season, but even just the 2 months that have been played in this season, even with the struggles that he's had early on. Average somehow finds itself right around where it usually is. More consistent hitters in baseball over the years. Snap throw back to first. Turner's in there, and it's 3-0.
Look at Justin Turner. We talked about that fly ball and that single that he got. You know, he's mad at himself because he knows he just missed it. And right there, he's running. He's running now. This is one where you're going, okay, I'm picking it up and possibly, might fall. It's one of those where that would have been really kind of in the middle going. If he was sprinting right out of the box, would he have been able to turn that into a double? And that's maybe one where if you maybe you get thrown out at second base because you really, you just don't know. But he was definitely running. It wasn't one where you're saying, well, he's just not hustling at all. He was definitely running and frustrated, and you anticipate it to be caught. If it does fall, then hopefully they can pick something up here.
And that's ball 4 to Gonzalez. So a pair of 2-out base runners for the Dodgers. Of course, recently Dave Roberts
benched Yasiel Puig for not running out a ball that he thought was gone. Wound up hitting off of the wall. Should have been a double. Wound up just being a single.
Yeah, and this one's a little bit different because, you know, Yasiel, you definitely know you hit that ball. I mean, that one's one where you know it's extra bases. It might go out, but you know it's definitely going to be extra bases. And it was different coming out of the box. And that's hitting off the back of the wall. Like this one, if you're sprinting out, you may or may not go. You may still have to stop because even if it falls, it still might have had a chance of throwing you out at second base for Justin Turner.
Either way, the inning still rolls on. 2 on and 2 out. Jock Peterson takes ball 1 from Hamill, who is really sharp in striking out Utley and Seager. And Turner reaches on that pop-up that falls in. Gonzalez walks, and he misses badly with ball 1 to Jock.
It's a good day to throw strikes with the wind blowing in. That was the other reason Jason Hayward couldn't get to that ball, because the longer it was in the air, the more it was getting knocked down back towards the infield. So he called it early, but that wind really played tricks on him.
It's something you always look at when you come to Wrigley Field. You're looking at the flags. You're looking to see how the wind from a hitter and a pitcher. You're always looking at that because it's going to have an effect on the way the game's played. It's going to have an effect the way you pitch. It's going to have an effect the way you swing.
Have an effect on the way you manage too. Joe Maddon has talked about how that's the first thing he checks when he gets to the ballpark, because it determines a lot of the small decisions within the game.
When you go over the game plan in your head as a starting pitcher the night before, the moment I got off the bus, I would start looking at the flags in center field before I even walked into the locker room, because it starts to change your whole mindset of how you're going to approach the game.
2 on, 2 out in the first inning, and a 1-1 to Jock Peterson. Oh, sharp slider, 1 and 2.
And I can understand the way he's looking at it from a managing standpoint, because when the wind is blowing in, you have to look at that nasty slider that he threw to Jock Peterson. But when the wind's blowing in, it is really difficult to hit one out. I mean, extremely difficult. So he'll know that. Maybe there's some situations where you're as a manager going, well, do I let him swing or think that I can use a home run here? Or do I maybe play small ball, maybe get guys going because it's blowing in? So yeah, it definitely changes your mindset.
Turner off of second, Gonzalez off of first. Peterson fouls it back.
Today, I would think right now, the way the wind's blowing, the place that you'll be able to hit home runs a little easier down the left field line, from where the left fielder is playing over towards the line, because the wind is blowing in, but it's kind of crossing that way to help maybe a little bit a ball down the left field line.
Got into the hands, popped into foul ground. The wind pushing that one towards play, and it's Baez to end the inning. Dodgers get a couple of 2-out base runners, but don't score. And Alex Wood looks to ride the momentum of his last few starts into this one at Wrigley. First time today in a scoreless game. There's their manager, Joe Maddon. And here is his starting lineup. Ben Zobrist hits leadoff because Dexter Fowler is dealing with a sore heel, so he gets the day off. Zobrist in there at the leadoff spot for the 3rd time this season. Hayward in his 1st season in a Cubs uniform. Then it's Bryant and Rizzo, Soler, Russell, and Baez, all youngsters. David Ross, a veteran, and then Jason Hamill on the mound in 89th. And Alex Wood, 25 years old, from Charlotte, North Carolina, who makes his 10th start. Look at the difference in numbers from his first few starts to the last 5, where he's 3rd in the majors in strikeout percentage. Over the 5-start stretch, only Jose Fernandez and Clayton Kershaw have struck out a higher percentage of batters than Alex Wood.
That comes from a mechanical adjustment with him, and he has been outstanding in being more consistent. It has to do with his stride leg as he takes his kick. He gets that closer to the ground really quick, and that puts his foot on the ground a little sooner and makes his release point more consistent.
He gets it going against Ben Zobrist with strike 1. It's his 10th start, but it's his first one in 9 days. He, of course, was pushed back from Friday because of a sore triceps muscle that thankfully came from swinging the bat. So the concern was much lower than it would have been if it was a pitching-related injury.
For sure, because different stresses from different activities. So the stress from swinging the bat was not from the same angle or the same weight load on the arm. So he's feeling fine. He wanted to actually make his start, but they really, with all the injuries we've had to the rotation, they want to make sure it's gone completely.
And Dave Roberts talked about before the game, he feels pretty confident. He's not really worried about. They're going to watch him, obviously, as they would watch any pitcher, and they'll look to see if he maybe shaking that arm or if there's any issue. He doesn't anticipate any of it and feels pretty confident with him out there to go as long as he can go.
2-2 on Ben Zobrist. First season in a Cubs uniform, and he has been a monster. #1 in the majors in on-base percentage. And riding a 15-game hitting streak into this one.
When you're locked in, you can take that breaking ball in the dirt like that, because that was a sharp breaking ball that looked like it was going to be a fastball by the knees, and he just spit on it.
And he's reached base safely in his last 34 starts. Whoa.
3rd time he's hit leadoff this year. Dexter Fowler getting the day off. Zobrist leading things off for the Cubs, and fouling one off down the right field line. Our Coors Light cold hard facts today talk about Ben Zobrist. His .351 average is 2nd in the National League behind Daniel Murphy. But #1 in the majors in on-base percentage, and there's that note you mentioned, 34 consecutive starts where he's reached base safely. Quite a pickup for the Cubs. Wood just barely misses downstairs, and Zobrist has a leadoff walk.
Well, they're talking about maybe in the future erasing the rule book and saying that it's not the hollow of the knee anymore. I think that's still a strike. Maybe in future years they're going to go to just the kneecap or above the knee slightly to help the hitters. But right now in 2016, I think this gets the hollow knee and should have been a strike.
Unfortunately for Alex Wood, doesn't get the call there.
Now Jason Hayward.
One good thing about Alex Wood, you saw his numbers where he talked about from first in his last 5 starts, the ERA, how it's gone down, mechanical changes. But what also he's done is he doesn't panic when guys get on first base, because he also uses a lot of ground balls and looks for that double play.
Top 10 in the National League in ground ball percentage. Crossed up was Grandal, but he's able to keep it close by, and Zobrist hangs out.
He just doesn't get this square in the glove. Kind of hits the heel, I think, of the catcher's glove, right by the thumb and the heel. That can hurt too. I mean, you're trying to catch a ball above 90 miles an hour. You want to catch it in the pocket. The ligaments in your hand don't like it when you don't get it properly.
We've seen that happen to Yasmani a few times this year. Off the thumb, happened down in St. Petersburg as well. Well, after he got ahead of Ben Zobrist 0-2, he walked him, and he's fallen behind Hayward 2-0.
And that one hurt him as well. Unless he caught that one awkwardly too. The movement, that's why he's walking out there, to give himself a little time. There he is, playing with the thumb.
He needs a little time. The one he got, the first one, this is the worst kind. This one is the worst kind because he has nothing to support his hand when it goes out there. That first one, at least it's in front of him and it's up and it just hits off the thick of the padding. But this one, the catcher does not like it at all. I need a moment. He's just trying to get it back in the center of the joint.
Man, you can see the pain in his eyes.
You have to catch a pitcher that has a lot of movement. It's hard to catch him square all the time. Mike Scioscia used to wear like a plexiglass mold of his thumb so it wouldn't let his thumb get pushed back and tear those ligaments up. Yasmani doesn't go. He goes with pure hand strength.
Comes the 2-1 to Jason Hayward. Strike 2. Chris Bryant due next in a scoreless first inning. Dodgers and Cubs in the first of 4. Wood delivering 2-2. And the count goes full just as it did to Zobrist. 3-2.
Did you play many 4 o'clock games when you were here as a Cub?
Not many, no. It's a tough time because you mentioned about the shadows. The shadows will definitely come into play here pretty soon because of that 4 o'clock start.
Yeah, the optics are going to get a lot different and vary every inning after the shadows get to the mound.
Hayward strokes one in the air to deep left field, sending Crawford back onto the edge of the warning track for out number 1.
Well, there's the difference between the wind blowing in or the wind blowing out. That ball was hit very well, but it helped knock it down and just kind of ease it into Carl's glove.
So runner at first with 1 gone, and up comes Chris Bryant, reigning National League Rookie of the Year. He was a unanimous winner as a 23-year-old last year. The Cubs made what was a bit of a surprise playoff run. A year early for this organization that's been rebuilding and had 5 consecutive last place finishes before last season's win in the wild card game over Pittsburgh, and then win over St. Louis in the division series before the Mets beat Joe Maddon's club in the NLCS. This year 34-14. They're first in the Central. 6.5 game lead over the Pirates. 9.5 over the vaunted Cardinals. And they've won 5 in a row after their only slump of the season, where they had a 4-8 stretch. Strike 1 on Bryant.
Pretty lofty for Chris Bryant, the life that he's going through right now. The billboard out there on Sheffield, I mean, it's bigger than Ernie Banks' statue.
Well,
they erected Ernie Banks' statue back in 2008. Mr. Cub. The expectations for the young man are really high. The Rookie of the Year, and now hit 3rd on this very successful Cub team.
I think last year it just was such a different attitude coming over. You know, obviously Joe Maddon is a big factor in that. He does a tremendous job with both young and veteran players, but the young guys just started to believe in themselves. And really just seemed like they talked about they were going to be a couple years away from really competing, but obviously that turned up a notch come last year as they were going to that playoff run and making the postseason in this tremendous season they're having here. And I think Joe Maddon has a lot to do with it, and the young guys believing in their ability and kind of having it's more almost a veteran's approach to the game.
Challenges to play here in Chicago, scheduling, or?
Well, yeah, obviously they always talk about the challenges of a lot of the day games. And then you go on the road, you have night and an occasional night game here, and how it messes with your clock. And the other challenges too is I always thought the weather could be a challenge. Like, I actually liked the day games because I liked it. It kind of had that spring training feel where I could go out and have dinner at night, get to bed, and then come back and play the game. But I like day games really early in the season because when it was really cold and windy, the weather was just a little bit better during the day as compared to be at night when it dropped down a few degrees, and that really affected you.
Wood gets Bryant with a changeup.
He's had to throw the whole kitchen sink, and he goes to the changeup, a really good one where the bottom drops out. It looks like the fastball to the knees, and Yasmani's gloves down there actually has to go lower and turn it over and gets Bryant.
That's been one of the things with the Cubs this year is that they're not striking out anymore. They started to get really good at taking walks the last couple of seasons, this guy included, and Anthony Rizzo, but still last year they had the highest strikeout percentage in the entire majors. This year the 4th lowest. Part of that is getting a guy like Ben Zobrist, Jason Hayward, a low strikeout guy as well, plugging them into the lineup. Now, part of it has been the growth of the young players like Chris Bryant, whose strikeout rates are way down from last season.
When we talk young players and veteran players, I always thought the Cubs were more successful when they had a few more veteran players because of the nightlife here in Chicago. The young guys that are just getting into big league money and they're single, do they really get their rest at night? Or do they hit Rush Street a little bit too often, and does it wear on them throughout the year? And the veteran players go home, have a little barbecue with their family, and now they're home resting.
What do you know about Rush Street?
Well, there's a lot of good restaurants there.
No.
It's a good street.
Yeah,
it's a nice street.
We enjoyed our time there last night.
We always have to go over where we eat. Good steak at Gibson's is great.
So 1-1 to Anthony Rizzo. Reaches out, pulls it softly to second. Chase Utley will throw him out and bring an end to this first inning. Zobrist walked to lead off the frame, but then Wood sits down the next 3. 26-minute first inning, but on a day like this, who cares? Chicago, so right when the gates opened 2 hours before game, the folks filed in on a beautiful day to try and get those best seats. Ball 1 to Yasmani Grandal. Away we go here in the second.
So they have to get here early to get the best seats, and that's why they become the loudest fans here.
All right. Yeah. Some more time to prepare for the game. 1-1 on Grandal. He's trying to recapture his form from April when he hit .295, got off to a really nice start, but May has not been as kind to him. Down the left field line, Soler comes on into the shadows for out number 1. Speaking of trying to recapture his form from April, Yasiel Puig comes to the plate. He's trying to recapture his form from the first couple of weeks of the season. Got off to such a good start. Numbers right now not very good. Showing some signs lately of coming out of it. A couple of walks over the weekend in New York, which was a staple of his early season success.
He's continuing to work on his mechanics with Mr. Turner. Turner Wharton, he put in a lot of time. Even Dave Roberts lends a helping hand every once in a while, trying to get him to relax a little bit more in his upper body.
Said that he offered big swing pitch right there instead of 2-1, 1-2.
The very famous and now in Dodger organization, Greg Maddux was the one that really defined that 1-1 pitch. Started here as the Cub, of course, Atlanta Brave for so long, and was a Dodger.
He cuts through an elevated fastball, and Hamill has 3 early strikeouts.
Hamill does a good job climbing the ladder there on Yasiel Puig with that last pitch. I mean, you saw him with the check swing. You can tell Yasiel wasn't too sure of himself or really recognizing the pitch right out of his hand. He challenged him with the fastball up, where when it gets, I always say, when it gets closer, when it's up, the hitter has a tendency to swing at it more because it's closer to your eyes and the ball looks bigger coming in to the strike zone.
Strike one on Carl Crawford. We'll start for Carl in a while. Dealing with some hamstring issues. Back in the lineup today after the quick turnaround last night. His first start since the Angels series.
One of the more confident things that can happen for a pitcher on the mound is when a batter early in the count swings at a ball. Because now you have the ability to walk them off the plate some more. You know they're going through a mental adjustment in their head about, you know, come on, make it be a strike. You know, you can't swing at that. So I always used to watch that early in a game with a whole lineup, individual batters, but with a whole lineup, how aggressive they were being, and how easy it was for them to pick the ball up and determine if it was a strike or a ball. We saw that with Yasiel's at bat. We saw it with Jock Peterson's at bat. Even though Hamels was having control problems and built the inning there in the first a little bit after 2 outs, I'm sure he still was confident because he saw guys swinging at balls.
Tried to tilt that one back over the inside corner. 3-2. Carl Crawford with the bases empty and 2 gone in the second. Hamill trying to work a 1-2-3 inning. Look out, George Lombard in that first base coach's box. Back to the mound. Hamill's got it. And a 1-2-3 second inning for Jason Hamill. On to the bottom half on a beautiful day in Chicago. No score. second inning for the Cubs. A guy with prodigious power. This was over the weekend against the Phillies. First home run off of the left field video board this season. Then Miguel Montero yesterday went off the right field video board. One of many dazzling young players in this Cubs organization that has broken out of the scene over the last 2 years or so. Takes strike one from Alex Wood. Soler's numbers this year not very good. He's hitting .211. The home run was his 5th of the season. He's only knocked in 12. But it started to lose playing time early on. It was looking like Kyle Schwarber was going to be the everyday left fielder for the most part, but Schwarber lost for the season with the leg injury. Soler was behind Jason Hayward and right. And it's really only been because of Schwarber's injury. Soler's been back into an everyday role. 3 pitches, quick work. Alex Wood punches him out. Show off your Dodger pride with the Dodger license plate frame. You can get yours at the Dodger game Monday, June 6th. First 40,000 fans get it. It's presented by Arco. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. One away for Addison Russell. Russell goes after the first pitch and singles to the opposite field.
Addison Russell, a little different approach, especially about the hitter in front of you getting called out on strikes. So you know Alex Wood is attacking the zone, so he doesn't want to wait around. That one wasn't hitting really hard, gets it off the end of the bat, but it's good placement.
So you go from Soler, who's 23, to Russell, who's 22, to Baez, who's 23. 4 for 29 slump right now, and he's not playing every day. Utility infielder for Joe Madden. But really any spot. He bunts it. Gonzalez has no play.
Left-handed pitcher on the mound, Alex Wood. It looks like the bunt attempt is really, I've got to make Adrian Gonzalez leave first base to field the ball.
And I'm wondering if Adrian Gonzalez recognized the jump that Alex Wood got off the mound. Usually that's one where he just come and you can flip it to the pitcher to at least get the one. And I think he recognized there wasn't really going to be a. Then he kind of thought, okay, well, there's no play, because looking at Alex Wood, then he thought about if I have to kind of field this off the run. Watch the way he fields, like almost off the run to anticipate throwing to second base, and he just didn't get a handle on it. And if it would have been a close play at second base, a tough play at second base. I think it was just him recognizing that Alex Wood didn't get a great jump off the mound.
Here's David Ross taking strike one. They have ruled it a base hit. So first and second with one gone. The 39-year-old veteran who started his career with the Dodgers. Dodgers drafted him out of Auburn in 1998. Debuted a few years later. He was with the Dodgers for 3 seasons.
Can't take David Ross lightly. I know he's hitting down here in the 8 hole and you got the pitcher on deck, but he's hitting .381 against left-handers this year. Jason Hamels, the pitcher, hits .261. So you think, okay, first and second, one out. hard jam to get out of 8, 9 hitters, but this is still a challenge.
Ross hit his 100th career home run on Friday. His first career home run was in a Dodger uniform against Mark Grace in a 14-0 game in Phoenix. They brought Gracie in to pitch, and Ross took him deep.
As soon as you said Mark Grace, I was like, you better check that. It might have been a typo.
Wood brings Ross a 2-1. He lays off. 3 balls and a strike. Oh, they said he offered 2-2.
I think David Ross took the ball from that 14 game, the home run, and got it back and asked Mark Grace to sign it for him. It would be an interesting one. Yeah. First home run off of Mark Grace.
It's a great story because they're always that. Hey, do you remember your first home run? I do, as a matter of fact. Who was it off of?
A first baseman.
Okay, who was your first pitcher you hit a home run off? Right. Ross pulls a base hit to left field. And they hold Russell at third. Crawford fires the ball back into the top of the diamond, and the bases are loaded. It's a bit of an interesting hold at third because Russell runs well. Crawford doesn't have the strongest arm, and he had a long way to go to get it.
I'm really shocked and surprised that they did hold him up at third base, because right here when he's about to get the ball, he's already touching third base. A lot of times they hold him up when the outfielder has the ball and he hasn't reached third base. But you see Russell there. I don't even know if Russell really had just the best jump off there. Right? He was just kind of glancing. See how he kind of froze there? But still, with his speed, he should be able to make up that ground pretty easily. And as you mentioned about Carl's arm isn't the strongest in the outfield, and especially too when you have the pitcher coming up to the plate as well.
You got a chance to get a run. You can, even if you get thrown out at the plate, you get a chance to turn the lineup over with your pitcher up there with 2 outs.
Alex Wood, good ground ball pitcher. Be nice to get one here. Delivers strike 1 to Jason Hamilton. Like you mentioned, All, he's the pitcher, but that doesn't mean that it's an easy out. 261. Cubs pitchers as a whole as good as any staff in the National League with the bats.
Alex going with 2 fastballs right there. The first one low to try and get the ground ball. The second one trying to beat him upstairs, which he did. Now sets himself up to take a couple shots at punching him out.
Alex Wood trying to pitch out of his second inning jam. Russell at third, Baez at second, Ross at first. Ben Zobrist waits on deck. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And he gets him with an off speed. Out number 2.
The backdoor slider before this. Hamilton takes it. But this one they go inside to go down and under the swing. Get it in there for a strike. Great fooled him. Now you got a chance to get out of it, but you got a huge challenge with Zobrist coming up. He's hitting 366 off the lefties.
Hottest hitter in baseball comes up. Hits in 15 straight. That's 1 short of a career high for him. And leads the majors in on-base percentage. Every game you can point to a turning point. Sometimes it comes as early as the second inning. No matter the outcome here, probably going to look back on this AB. Backdoor, strike 1.
it's a really challenge for Alex Wood to just really reset himself, because you're thinking a lot of times for a pitcher, you're going, all right, well, I know that at bat, I know it's a pitcher, but it was still a big at bat. I got the strikeout good. I have a chance to get myself out of the inning, and you just really have to reset and say, no, now this is the one where I really have to bring everything in. Like you mentioned, a pivotal point in the game.
He's delivered first pitch strikes to 9 of the 10 batters that he's faced. He's ahead of Zobrist 0-1. And misses away with a fastball.
Well, the crucial 1-1 pitch right here. 1-2 or 2-1, and you have bases loaded, 2 out. It accentuates it even more.
2-1.
Well, with the bases loaded, we talk about how critical this at bat is. Would you want to go in a windup, or is it just really how you're feeling, or would you stay with the stretch?
You know, a lot of times I went from the windup with 2 out, bases loaded, until a 3-2 count where the runners really can get off.
2-2.
There's a difference between the 2-1 pitch and the 1-2. You got to throw 2 quality pitches at least to get him out. But you get to that 1-2, you can go to the corner a lot more. You can have him try and chase a breaking ball down. But Alex did a great job getting himself back in it right here.
He's 3rd in the majors in strikeout percentage in this month of May. And boy, could he use one right here. Bases loaded, 2 gone, and a scoreless game in the 2nd. And a 2-2 to Ben Zobrist. He got him. Alex Wood wiggles his way out of the jam. Cubs load the bases with 1 out. He K's Hamill, and he K's the best hitter in baseball this year.
Hamill on his last warm-up pitch looked like he got a cramp either up in his hamstring, and he starts to stretch his calf, and then it got so bad that you see him grab the top of his right leg, and then he raises the toe and goes down to try and stretch it out. And they are still looking at him, wondering if he can continue.
I'd hate to see this for a guy who is off to such a fantastic start. Top 5 in the National League in several categories. And remember, last year he had a really nice first half, had a sub-3 ERA, but then dealt with a leg injury. That was on his landing leg last year, though. This is on his push leg. Had an ERA above 5 in the second half while he was dealing with that leg injury last year. had a really vigorous offseason workout routine, changed his diet to get his body in shape to be able to work through and avoid injuries. Dealing with something here.
And you have to be really careful if he starts to favor the leg, that the repercussions of that can creep up your whole body into your back and then maybe your shoulder or your arm. So it's something that the training staff for the Cubs and Joe Madden will really want to make sure that his leg is functioning so he doesn't hurt his arm.
You can read his lips there and see the grimace on his face. He's not feeling good.
Manager's talking that long. He's giving him everything that he's thinking about and how good he wants him to feel before he takes the risk of pitching. Really comforting him on the fact that, you know, you're still a man, you're still a big part of this team if you decide to walk off here. I don't want you to hurt yourself. I'd rather deal with this and lose you for 3 or 4 more innings in this game than to lose you for a long time as far as number of starts.
Trevor Cahill hustling down to the bullpen, emergency duty perhaps.
The fact that you still see him constantly stretching and moving. Nope, they grabbed him there.
They're gonna make a change.
So Jason Hamill, who invested so much to make sure that he could avoid things like this during the offseason, unfortunately for the Cubs, having to leave here before he throws a pitch in the third.
Instead of Cahill, I think they're going to go to Travis Wood, the lefty.
Former starter. Helps give the Cubs some length, and they're going to need it today. Your local Dodge dealer today. And by Carl's Jr., the California Classic Double Cheeseburger for just $2.49 at Carl's Jr. The great Ernie Banks, Mr. Cobb. Honor with a statue here at Wrigley Field. Back in Chicago, Travis Wood into the game, replacing Jason Hamill. Wood, a guy who's been a starter in his career, comes in hoping to give the Cubs some length on a day where they're going to need plenty of it, with Hamill going only 2 innings.
The velocity's gone down and the arm side has changed for sure. Travis is somebody who will go around 91, 92, good changeup. He can cut his fastball. He's got a curveball.
Well, there's one thing though, this if you look at what this bullpen has done, it's been taxed the least out of any bullpen in the major leagues, because the starters have gone so deep in in their games, the quality of starts, and you see the incredible record we talked about that they have, 34-14 coming in today's game. So maybe they do have guys over there that aren't afraid to pitch numerous innings, or
we just don't know
stamina.
Yet,
right? We'll see.
Coming into the year, everybody looked at the Cubs and said this lineup has the potential to be scary good, and they have been. But everybody else also said, well, they're starting pitching. Who knows beyond Jake Arrieta and John Lester? The starters have been the best in baseball this season. Alex Wood leading off the third for the Dodgers. Remember, it was on a swing that Wood hurt his triceps a couple of starts ago against St. Louis.
But he has been cleared to swing the bat, not like Scott Kazmir has had the thumb issue where he's been relegated to kind of slashing and bunting only.
Wood's been swinging it well. 4 hits this season. Going to get out of that jam at the bottom of the second to keep this game scoreless. Travis Wood strikes out Alex Wood for the first out of the third. We say hello to Alana Rizzo.
Well, Joe, you guys were talking at length about Ben Zobrist, of course, swinging a hot bat as of late. He has been doing so all season long, but he has a tremendous amount of respect for the guy at the plate right now, Chase Utley. Earlier this week, Ben Zobrist was saying that he really feels that Chase Utley, despite the fact that he's at a bit of an advanced age for baseball, if you will, still has a tremendous command of the strike zone. Now, this is Zobrist, a guy that's hit safely in 15 straight games. You guys talked about that earlier. He said Utley's swing is short, a lot of hands. He said he kind of has a Cal Beach Poly mentality, even though Chase Utley went to UCLA. He has a tremendous amount of respect for him. Two guys that certainly older in their careers, veteran players that both still know how to hit.
Both having really nice seasons. Utley grounds it foul. Chase, it's by far his best year since those All-Star years in Philadelphia with 5 consecutive seasons. He was one of the top hitters in baseball. 2006 to 2010. He was an All-Star 5 consecutive seasons, and the numbers right now, the best they've been since then. He sends a fly ball to deep left center field. Hayward's back on it at the warning track for the out. Travis Wood retires the first 2 men that he faces. Emergency duty here with Jason Hamill leaving the game with some discomfort in that right leg. There's Corey Seager swinging and missing, strike 1. Interesting with the left-hander into the game as quickly as Travis Wood is. You're Dave Roberts. You design your lineup to be against a right-handed pitcher. And for the Dodgers this year, the lineups have looked quite a bit different versus righties and versus lefties. See a lefty in the 3rd inning with a lineup designed to face a right-hander. Seager takes strike 3. He's 0 for 2 with a pair of Ks, and 1, 2, 3 go the Dodgers in the 3rd. out of Ben Zobrist to get out of a bases loaded jam last inning.
4 or 5 moments in a game for a starting pitcher that you know you have to get somebody out to get a win, and he is working him away, and he's facing the best hitter in baseball. Then goes in with the breaking ball, goes back away, and that was a huge pitch to get that second strike, and then comes back with the slider that's got really good bite to get that huge strikeout with bases loaded, 2 out.
And delivers strike 1 to Jason Hayward to start the 3rd inning. You know, Wood, guys, over his first 4 starts had a 12-11 strikeout to walk ratio. 1 more strikeout than he had walks over his first 4 times out. His last 5 starts coming into this one, 43 strikeouts, 5 walks.
Getting on a pace like Clayton Kershaw, was the first guy in baseball history to strike out 100 batters and only have 5 walks. I think Clayton's at 105 and 5 now.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's ungodly. But Alex Wood is on the same kind of roll right here in his adjustment period.
That's his 5th K today, so make that now in his last 5+ starts. 48 strikeouts, 6 walks.
And that 1 walk was really close to start off the game with Ben Zobrist. I mean, we thought it really easily been called a strike for strike 3. But a walk nonetheless. But yeah, you touched on it. It's been a different Alex Wood the last 5 starts. And ever since he's made that mechanical change, and it's obviously a positive for the Dodgers. And now just continue being consistent.
Chris Bryant pulls one through the hole, base hit. Somebody's got to hustle back to second, and they do with the way they had him shifted. And it's a 1-out single for Bryant.
Face a guy like Chris Bryant with 11 home runs. When he hits the ball on the ground like this, if it happens to find a hole, you just tip your hat to Chris Bryant. But you'd rather have him standing over there on a ground ball base hit than launching one.
Anthony Rizzo up, a left-handed hitter. They flip things around, bring Justin Turner, the 3rd baseman, over between first and second base. Corey Seager remains on the left side of the infield. Rizzo is 0 for 1. He bounced to second his first time. Now that I'm seeing the positioning, did he actually bounce technically to 3rd his first time? Was it Turner that he bounced to? So was it 5-3 at 4? Now that I'm seeing,
I'm remembering the throwing action and thinking it was Chase Utley.
Okay.
I don't know. You might have something there. They might change this though when there's.
I wrote 4-3 down. So yeah, you're right. That might have been.
Rizzo hits it hard. Gonzalez smothers it and steps on the bag.
Adrian Gonzalez mad at himself that he didn't field it cleanly. Oh my goodness, no one's there again. Wow.
Flashback to the NLDS against New York.
Chris Bryant had that easily. Chris Bryant was aware he could have gone straight to 3rd, because after that bobble, everybody was on the right side. Nobody was covering 3rd.
The look on Chris Bryant's face tells you I'm a guy that
nobody's at 3rd. The catcher's not there. There's Alex Wood. Nobody. And I can't believe the 3rd base coach isn't even calling for him to come over. Nothing. No. Nobody.
So runner at second with 2 gone. Here's Jorge Soler.
That's something the Dodgers, I mean, we've seen that already twice happen. And obviously the big moment of the postseason last year, that they really have to constantly remind themselves with all the shifts that, listen, the base is open. It's not, that's almost something, a pre-reminder before anything even happens, to let each other know somebody has to get to 3rd.
Bob Guerin has spearheaded the efforts, kind of the game planning of the shifting, the different layers that come with it.
And that one on there, right there, is really the catcher, because the catcher sees everything. And Alex Wood has to cover first, because that's the instinct, because if Adrian Gonzalez double play, can't get back to first, the pitcher has to be there. That's where the catcher can just go down there to 3rd. But the catcher sometimes on that one gets caught up because they're going, okay, there's a double play ball. I usually go behind first base and back up to first base for an overthrow. You know, it's a double play ball. Let me go down and follow the guy for a possible double play and back that up. So, yeah, it's a lot of different thinking.
And it's rethinking things that have become muscle memory for you as players.
And for the Dodgers, you know, they have the 5th fewest shifts in the National League. So this is not something that happens quite as often compared to other teams.
So 5th fewest shifts, but #1 in the majors as far as percentage of batted balls against the shift that they turn into outs.
That's a great stat. Thus the defensive efficiency rating, 2nd to the Cubs.
Yeah. So really that was a lot of words to say that they shift more effectively than anybody else.
Exactly.
With 2nd and 2 gone and a scoreless game in the 3rd. Alex Wood to Jorge Soler. He takes it in the dirt for ball 4. It's a real walk from Wood. 1st and 2nd now with 2 away for Addison Russell.
Alex Wood, his mechanics getting ironed out, making the different adjustments from the offseason all the way back to the end of April here when he started working on the leg kick. And then to have the role model of Clayton Kershaw, who attacks the strike zone on your team, have a living, breathing example of what it's like to attack and be able to put people away. I think that combination has led to this better strikeout to walk ratio.
Addison Russell takes ball 1. There's a really nice piece on MLB.com today. Mike Petriello does a great job with all the StatCast data. He had StatCast data that showed that the mechanical tweaks that you were talking about have led to a more consistent release point.
Yeah, his release point before he changed his leg kick and getting it on the ground sooner was kind of wandering. If you drew a line from first base to third base, that would be the angle it was wandering on. It was probably about a good 6-8 inches where they were varying. And the wonder is that giving away certain pitches to the hitter? But also then when he adjusted his leg kick, the formation, if you think about shooting a shotgun, the formation of the BBs got a lot tighter, and it was more of a consistent circle of where his hand was coming towards the plate. Didn't really help him on extension or lengthen his stride or do anything to the stride length, but to the consistency of the release point, like if you were throwing darts and trying to hit the bullseye, he's been throwing them from the same exact place.
And then from a hitter's perspective, as you talked about, does a hitter pick that up? There are times you can possibly pick that up when you can just recognize maybe the breaking ball or the fastball just a little bit different coming out of his hand from the release point. And I've always said some of the best pitchers, what makes them so effective when everything looks like a fastball coming off your hand, because usually you're looking fastball to just breaking ball, but when everything looks exactly the same, they keep you off balance.
Russell short, caught by Seager. A lot of traffic against Alex Wood so far, but no damage. And through 3 in Chicago, no score.
Field. No score yet in the top of the 4th inning. A beautiful old historic stadium, but a bit confined, if you will. Time now for the T-Mobile greater coverage of baseball. Wrigley Field, certainly an old stadium, the second oldest current ballpark, of course, in Boston, and the oldest. Original vines on the outfield wall planted back in 1937. The lights added in 1988. The first night game was supposed to be August 8th of 88, but it was ended up being rained out. Broke ground on the 1016 project, restoration and expansion a couple of years ago. But how about the new locker room for the Cubs? Certainly no longer confined, if you will, as far as the Cubs players are concerned. A beautiful new renovation to the home clubhouse here at Wrigley Field. You can see the nice additions there, and the first time that the players were able to see it, you look at their faces, it's almost as if it's Christmas morning, you guys. And you know, the visiting clubhouse, you can't eat too much because you got to suck in your gut a little bit. Difficult to move around visiting clubhouse, but the new clubhouse is amazing.
Yeah, Nomar, you wouldn't have minded having that built back in like 03 or 04, right?
Well, it's so funny is when I came here, they were all apologizing, were like, sorry for the clubhouse, and I was like, wow, it's better than when I came from.
Yeah.
But looking at that, that is just next level. Just like the Dodger clubhouse, what they did there, and all the facilities they have is tremendous.
Justin Turner pops out. Anthony Rizzo puts it away. One gone in the 4th. Of course, in the old clubhouse, as you can attest to, they turn it into a spot to go get swings, right? Because the batting cages are under the bleachers.
The batting cages are in right. When I play here in right center, they have now batting cages, I believe, left center and right center. But I think there's still the visiting cage now is in right center.
Right.
But that was for both visiting and home. So there was only one batting cage, and that's where you went. So you just put a net up. You put a net up and a tee in the middle of the clubhouse to practice your swings. But the clubhouse was a decent size. I mean, like I said, coming from where I came from, where Fenway was so tiny, I was like, wow, there's a lot of room here. At least I felt that way.
Well, you moved from the oldest to the second oldest.
Right.
It had to be more modern.
So, yeah, I was impressed. I was like, wow, the training room's bigger. I just thought everything was bigger. It's all perspective, right?
They've actually turned the old clubhouse into a batting tunnel. So it's right on the way to the new clubhouse. Whereas you mentioned they used to drop the net, and they have a big flat screen TV that they had. I don't know if they had this when you were in there in 04 and 05, but a big flat screen TV on one end of the clubhouse. And when they converted the clubhouse to a little spot to take swings during the game, they had a board that would swing down from the ceiling to cover up the flat screen. This is recently as last year. Gonzalez strikes out, 2 gone in the 4th. So, Omar, you played a couple of years here in Chicago, and all over the course of your long career, had plenty of games here. How does this park stack up as far as your favorites to play in?
It ranks right up there.
Yeah.
Definitely ranks up there. Just we talked about just the feeling, see the ivy there, just the different feel that comes with this ballpark, and the tradition as well. It's always special to be in a place that has such a long history. You think about all the greats that played in this ballpark and on the same field and hit balls in the ivy that you hit a ball into. You hit it over the ballpark, like just all of that you're part of a long tradition.
Of course, Dodger Stadium is the 3rd oldest ballpark. Opened in 1962 after the team spent their first few years in Los Angeles playing at the Coliseum.
Yeah, I covered them all. I covered all the old ones. I don't know what it's like to have a new home clubhouse or the new stadiums.
Yeah.
That's fine. I loved where I played.
Jock pokes one off the end of the bat. Edison Russell throws him out. And 10 consecutive Dodgers retired after the Gonzalez walk in the 1st inning. field on Memorial Day. No score as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning. U.S. hockey fans too. United States Marine Corps flag out there in the bleachers, being held by a couple of Dodger fans, and even hanging from the rooftops. Couldn't ask for a nicer day. Sure, it's good to be back with you guys, by the way. Missed you.
It's nice to see you, be with you, of course. Nice little dinner last night to reunite.
Javier Baez leads off the 4th for the Cubs and takes a ball from Alex Wood. Baez golfs a towering fly ball to left center field. It's Crawford. Out number 1. We saw Jason Hamill leave the game after throwing his warm-ups in the 3rd. Now on Rizzo, you dug up some updates on it.
Well, after 2 scoreless innings, Jason Hamill having to depart the game after the 2 innings. Joe, he's having right hamstring cramping. Easy for me to say. He's currently being evaluated. So right hamstring cramping, perhaps, hopefully just a dehydration issue for Hamill.
All right, Alana, we appreciate that. And hate to see it for anybody, especially a guy who's worked so hard to get over the injury hump. Travis Wood is in for him, and he's tired off 6 men that he's faced. Here's strike 1 to David Ross. Final season for the 39-year-old. 15th year with his 7th different team. Started with the Dodgers, then the Pirates, then the Padres, then the Reds, then the Red Sox, then the Braves, and the Cubs to finish his career. A missile down the left field line, hooking foul.
That is where you are glad there's that wind that's blowing in, and it's also a little bit across.
Looked like David Ross knew that right when he hit it. He was kind of, it's one of those where you go, I know that's foul. Can I give it some body language to stay fair? No.
No Carlton Fisk. Yeah, I didn't go foul by much, but you're right. He knew it right off of the bat.
That's why he just kind of is like, I know I hit it well far enough. Let's see. Oh.
That's his best angle as a catcher, staying there in the batter's box.
Right.
That's where he is. An opposing team hit it down the line.
Breaking ball curves inside, and it's full.
That was a really good pitch by Alex Wood.
I never understood how a catcher could catch a ball maybe 3 inches inside, and it was breaking left to right, and it didn't catch any of the plate.
And walked it. That's the 3rd walk for Alex Wood. We've been so good at limiting those walks lately. It walked just 5 total in his last 5 starts. 2 of the 3, though, as you noted, Nomar, didn't miss by a whole lot.
When you have 3 walks in 4 innings, you think, okay, the guy's doesn't have very good command, but he is missing by just hairs.
We talked about that very first one on Ben Zobrist, and that could have been easily called a strike. That was the one where you're talking about the hollow of the knee.
Travis Wood, who is a really good hitting pitcher. Skies the first one into center, battling the sun. It's played cutting in front of Peterson for the 2nd out. Already saw miscommunication between Cubs fielders and a ball fall on right center today. Not this time, though.
It looked like Jock Peterson might have been calling it right there. And then Yasiel coming into the picture there. See,
and that's the hard part when they're both calling it. It's hard to hear the other guy because when you're talking and yelling, your ears almost shut down. Don't they know?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, well, I mean, sometimes you hear yourself as you're talking, right? So when you're screaming, you don't hear the other guy. You know, that's what a lot of times, like I knew from at shortstop, I would always tell my, my left fielder, I said, I'm going to go out there and go after everything as hard as I can, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to have to wait till you say something. That way we don't call it at the same time and we don't hear each other.
Hunter takes off. Zobrist takes the pitch. Into second, they got it. Grandal throws out David Ross to end this fourth inning. No scores. We go to the fifth at Wrigley Field. Is brought to you by Jack in the Box. It's back. The Portobello Mushroom Buttery Jack. Taste it before it's gone at Jack in the Box. Back at Wrigley Field on a perfect Memorial Day afternoon. This game days in general here at Wrigley typically start at 1:20 local time. This one was moved back to 4:05 because of the Dodgers Sunday night baseball game in New York last night. Beautiful time of day to take in a ball game. One of the cathedrals of the sport. Where I saw, I didn't get to bring it up, the inning ended, but on the graphic with the numbers for you two guys here, you had a save here, Earl. You remember it?
Nope.
Eric Steven does, of True Blue LA. He's got a great little Twitter thread going. It was in 1988.
Wow.
Yeah. Huh. One of your 5 career saves. So make sure you check out at True Blue LA on Twitter. He's got the whole story of it, even an article about it.
Wow. I wonder if it was in between starts or it was right after the All-Star break.
He pitched all the time, so it could have been at any time. Tommy wasn't afraid to say, "Hey, Earl, can you throw today?" "Yes, sir." "Get in there."
My favorite save was the '88 National League playoffs against the Mets.
Yeah. Game 4. Randall pulls it to short. Addison Russell. It was May 10th. May 10th, 1988.
It's pre-All-Star break for sure.
Let's continue your Dodger retired numbers pin series collection Saturday, June 4th. The Dodgers take on the Braves. It's Don Sutton's pin, courtesy of 76. Go to Dodgers.com/promotions to learn how you get tickets to get your Don Sutton retired number pin.
Did you know before the game as you might possibly go in that game, like, oh, our bullpen's been taxed, I might need you, that he come to you like, I might need you, Bulldog? So maybe don't throw your side work.
There's two possibilities. That the bullpen was really tired and I was having a side work that day and I hold it off till after the game. Or if Eric Stevens looks, maybe I got bombed the start prior to that and I had a lot of innings and pitches left in me because I got knocked out early. So I don't know which one.
Puig gets a hard bouncer that's backhanded by Bryant. Look at his arm.
This was a fine play by Chris Bryant because Yasiel really getting out of the box, stays with it, and he gets down the line but shows off that arm. What a great play. Just a great calmness to him. After he makes the play, watch how calm he is because he knows he has such a good arm. And that was a perfect throw. As we had a look at our nice Carl's Cam instant replay. Usually that's for Oral to say, so I was leaving it open for Oral, but he didn't want to take it.
I've just called a meeting at Carl's to talk about it.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering because
promo.
I'm sorry, I was just taking the play. I'll give you Morongo.
There is no Morongo today.
There isn't? No. Well, next time you got it, okay?
Actually, I think they just got a free one.
There you go.
Hey, the game, May 10th, 1988, where you got the save in. It was a 14-inning game. Crawford puts it in play. Ross picks it up and throws him out. Game-winning home run in that one from Kirk Gibson, who hit a pretty important game-winning home run a little later on in that 1988 season. Chicago. Not too many better places in the summer. No, Windy City. Not too many better places in baseball than Wrigley Field here on this Memorial Day. No score. Yes, technically it's a pitcher's duel, but it hasn't necessarily felt like it. There's been quite a bit of traffic against Alex Wood. He's been able to work out of all that traffic and out of any jams that he's been in. One of the significant ones was with the bases loaded in the second, where he struck out Jason Hamill, and then he struck out Ben Zobrist, who leads off this fifth. A lot of movement in those hands pre-setup.
I was just looking at that right now. By Ben Zobrist, he's there. You just see a lot of movement. You know, everybody has a different setup, different rhythm, different thing they're trying to feel while they're at home plate.
That might be to get his hands started first, get him in front of his body. You had Joe Morgan with the little chicken wing. You've had Willie Stargell with the kind of whip of the bat things. You get guys that kind of take the bat and bounce it off their shoulder.
Right. I mean, there's a different feel of what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying, you know, what your mindset is it, am I thinking about throwing that top hand to the ball? Am I thinking about the bottom hand coming over, taking the bottom hand more to the ball? Whatever you feel you have to be working on in the cage. And sometimes there's either a movement or a certain trigger that reminds your body and yourself to do what you're trying to accomplish.
Rifled down the right field line. That's a base hit. Puig has it rolled by him. Zobrist is going to be on third.
Zobrist wasn't going anywhere when the ball was going towards Yasiel, but Yasiel had him turn on the jets because this is a good piece of hitting here, but then Yasiel just kind of boots it.
Well, the reason why he wasn't going to go to second base is for a couple reasons. Seeing the way Yasiel got to the ball, getting there so quickly, and also getting himself in a position to spin around and do what Yasiel does best, is throwing that ball. And he's seen it throughout this entire year. He was throwing guys out at second, third, and so he was getting himself prepared, and while being prepared, he missed that ball.
Ball one on Jason Hayward. It is rolled a single with a two-base error. And the Cubs have the tie-breaking run at third with nobody out.
It's the Dodgers' first error in the last 6 games. They had gone error-free and one of the tightest defenses in all of baseball. And one of the reasons the defense is tight is Yasiel. Great Gold Glove defense he's been playing this year. It's just one that he missed.
And you know, Yasiel misses that because he's trying to keep it to the single. It wasn't lack of effort. It wasn't anything like that. He was just going, okay, I got to get to this ball, and I got to just get myself into position to spin around and throw. He did everything right but catch it. That was really it.
See if Wood can reach back and get a punch out. It's put in play. Here comes Zobrist. Gonzalez thought about coming home and then was caught in between, and the Cubs lead 1-0.
One thing Alex Wood really needs to work on is being able to get off the mound. Because right there, Adrian thought about coming home, because once again he recognized how Alex getting off the mound. See how he just kind of slow getting there, and he wasn't going to beat him. I mean, one, he possibly could have just flipped it to him. It's one where you're going, all right, I'll just flip it and take your chances.
And so the defense, it has been so sharp lately, falters here in the 5th, and the Cubs take advantage with the game's first run. Runner at first, still nobody out. Chris Bryant. All 6 hits for the Cubs today have been singles. Zobrist wound up at third with a 2-base error from Puig.
And even before that run scored, I was thinking in my head, I go, if he can just get out of this, just giving up one, it's a tremendous inning right now, because, you know, obviously Zobrist gets there because of the miscue out in right field. But now it's about minimizing that damage and keeping your team in this game, because, you know, the offense has to figure out to get something going.
That ball almost takes the head off of the third base umpire, Nick Lentz. It's foul. It's 0-2.
We've had a few shots down the line. George Lombard on the Dodger side had to get out of the way of one. There's not a lot of room here in Wrigley Field for the coaches to get out of the way, including the umpires. Nice little bit of limbo.
That's the 6th Wood punch out of the day. Second time he's gotten Bryant with it off speed, and one away in the 5th. His last start was 2 Fridays ago in San Diego, and he fanned a career-high 13 in that game.
Notice this right before this pitch. Remember, I was just talking about how you now got to remind yourself what to do with the shift. You saw Justin Turner go straight to Alex Wood and talk to Alex Wood to remind him, listen, I am coming over for this shift. Any baller, somebody has to cover third base.
Anthony Rizzo lifts one to right. That one's down. Puig can't cut it off. Rolls to the ivy. Jason Hayward coming home. Relay to the plate. Well done, but Grandal drops the ball. RBI double for Rizzo, and the Cubs take a 2-0 lead.
So Yasiel does a good job on this ball. And the ball's up in the zone. Rizzo does a good job hitting this. But Yasiel, I mean, he gets to this ball hustling, and just his strong throw to hit the cutoff man. Hits Adrian Gonzalez for the relay, and everything looks perfect there. Just Yasmani unable to hold on to the ball. Like he was thinking about tagging before he actually caught that ball.
Rick Honeycutt out there to talk with Alex Wood. It's a first extra base hit against him. 83 pitches total.
Take a look. Yasmani thinks the ball's in there, so he continues to tag, and it looks like Hayward would have been safe no matter what, but well executed relay play, missed the tag, dropped the ball, but Hayward's speed looks like he would have beat it anyway.
It's the third hit of the inning against Wood.
2 hit hard. Zobrist and right there from Rizzo, and the ball with Hayward hit with just a little chopper and the strikeout. So I think Rick Honeycutt's not out there going out there to adjust something. Let's just give him a little breather, get him refocused.
Soler, diving play, Turner, and gets him. Justin Turner in an inning where the defense has let the Dodgers down with a sparkling defensive play for out number 2.
This is just an amazing play by Justin Turner, because this was a rocket. Extending, I mean, full extension there to get that ball.
The ball's actually behind him when he gets it. The shoulder and glove have to get behind him. Just to wait for the dive to almost finish to get the glove out there.
I mean, I think that also the moment of this game to save, possibly save this run from scoring.
Yep.
Just what a tremendous play.
Strike one on Russell, who loses the bat, which he's prone to do. Hardly any pine tar. Lewis Coleman getting loose for the Dodgers. Rizzo at third with 2 gone, and an 0-1 pitch. Russell shoots it foul, strike 2. Wood gets him and strands Rizzo at third. But the Cubs break the scoreless tie. RBI hits from Hayward and Rizzo. Through with 5 in Ridley. 2-0 Chicago. On Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop online at choosenissan.com. Back in Chicago, 4 games here this week for the Dodgers, Monday through Thursday. They trail 2-0. Cubs breaking the scoring seal in the bottom of the 5th against Alex Wood, whose day is finished, as Kike Hernandez pinch hits and fouls the first one back. It was Hernandez who started the 9th inning last night by reaching in front of a 2-run rally to win the game 4-2 against New York. Wood's day finishes after 5 innings, allows those 2 runs out 7 hits. He strikes out 7. Kike trying to find a way without an everyday role, without consistent at-bats, to be productive. It's on a 1-1 from Travis Wood, and takes it outside 2-1. That's got to be one of the most difficult things, though.
Well, it's, for Kike, him coming up last year, it was, playing time here and there. He was coming off the bench, and he was doing such an incredible job, which kind of played himself into more of a starting role, ended up getting him more at bats because he was swinging the bat hot. Well, this year it was about him going, okay, how do I mix him in with almost having more of those type of roles? Dave Roberts trying to mix everybody and try to keep everybody hot, but he hasn't been able to get as many as at bats. It just hasn't started off the way he started off last year when he was playing sporadic.
He's just got to continue to fight that emotion to try and get 3 hits in 1 at bat. You still have to get the pitches you need so that you can put a good swing on it.
On 2-2, he takes it in the dirt.
And it's hard because you take last year, for example, we talked about it, just said it. Played in every once in a while to be. Remember, he was a center fielder. They were playing him as your center fielder. So he wants to be a starter. Everybody wants to be that starter. So now you know that I can be. And now you come into the next season and you feel like you're trying to compete. You put more pressure on yourself to see if you can get that spot back.
Lazy fly ball to right for Zobrist, and that is 14 consecutive Dodger hitters sent down by first Jason Hamilton, then Travis Wood. In the case of Kike, when last season ended and the dust kind of settled from last season, he was really the only second baseman on the roster. And then they re-signed Chase Utley, and then they re-signed Howie Kendrick, and suddenly he found himself, at least in the second base picture, buried and having to use that utility role to find his way into the lineup.
And he's one of the main reasons the roster is so flexible, that can really take some of these injuries and still put a really nice big league team out there on the field.
Strike 1 on Chase Utley. Chase is 0 for 2 today. The Dodgers have only 1 hit. There's a single from Justin Turner back in the first inning. Don't have a base runner since the first. Fly ball to center. Hayward started back at first, now comes on for out number 2. Here's Alana Rizzo.
Well, guys, Trace Thompson dealing with that lower back tightness. He said really his hips are the ones that are really tight, causing his back to overcompensate. He said he's never had this issue before. He was able to go yesterday, is available to go today if need be, getting some needle treatment, taking a lacrosse ball and rolling it all over his back to try to work out that tightness. As far as Andre Ethier is concerned, still hasn't moved towards much. In fact, he's not doing another scan for about another 2.5 weeks. He's still working with that Alter G machine, but really not able to put any sort of work on it. No weight bearing on that leg. And then, of course, Scott Van Slyke already in his rehab, is going to be off today on the travel day, playing the next 2 days. He's eligible to come off on June 3rd.
You didn't want that one.
Seager swings at one that bounces. He's behind 0-2. Only to think with Andre Remember, in the day or two after he fouled that ball off his leg, the thought was, it's nothing. It's a bruise, right? It's something that guys deal with. But then, second look at it revealed the fracture. Here we are nearing June, and still dealing with bouncing back from it. A key cog for this lineup that for much of last season was the best hitter in the lineup.
Dave Roberts in his media scrum today talked about how it would be very much welcoming with open arms and it's like to get him back. Give him a little bit more of an opportunity to get Adrian Gonzalez off his feet some days. Play a little first base over there, and of course Scott can play all three outfield positions.
Well, when you get to the bullpen because of injury after 2 innings, you feel pretty good normally about your chances to make it a long day for the opposition. Cubs pitching has retired 15 in a row despite losing Hamill after the second inning. Make that 16 in a row as Seager strikes out. On to the bottom of the 6th. Cubs in front 2-0. We go to the bottom of the 6th. Cubs getting 2 in the 5th against Wood. Coleman comes in with an ERA right around 3, making his 24th appearance in his first season in a Dodger uniform.
16 of his last 18 appearances have been scoreless. He went out on a bereavement, lost his grandfather that he was very close to, and came back. He's really dedicated himself to pitching for his grandfather and really locked in with his slider and really nice fastball into righties. He is dominating right-handed hitters. They're only hitting him at a .098 mark. He has been a specialist in that area, and here being called on to maybe throw just a full inning and get a 0 up there.
Bottom 3rd of the order due up. Baez, Ross, and the pitcher's spot. Travis Wood has fired 4 perfect relief innings, and he's not a bad hitter. See if he goes out there for his spot here in the 6th. Ball 1 to Javier Baez. So, guys, the team got in at about 3 a.m. last night after playing the 8 o'clock Eastern Sunday night baseball game. Baez puts it in play to short. Seager will throw him out. We've seen them get just 2 base runners today. Is that too easy of a thing to read into and say that there's something to do with it, or is that real?
I believe there's a little something to do with it, because even if you get to the hotel at 3 and you maybe can get into bed and close your eyes by 3:30, 4 o'clock. There's still an adrenaline rush of getting to the hotel. And now, you know, you still maybe a little bit on West Coast time. It's hard to fall asleep. I know in New York, for me, I couldn't go to sleep till 3, 4, 5 in the morning on almost every night we were there. So, but how hard is it on your body?
You know what it is? It's when you have to set your alarm. Because usually, think about it, when we play.
We normally get around the crack of noon.
Right. You'd wake up when you'd wake up because you're like, all right, night game. But when you come in like that, you're going, I better set my alarm because I just can't sleep in. Because I know I have to wake up and go play at I know it's a 4 o'clock game. It's not that 1 o'clock, but you're still setting your alarm to get up to catch that bus.
Well, normally when we take the second bus, which is mostly media, maybe we'll get a reliever or a starting pitcher that's just having a day before he starts, he's going to relax. So that second bus has 5, 6 people on it. We probably had 15 to 20. Probably 10 to 12 of the players where they just felt like the rest was more important than getting out to the ballpark and going through. And Dave Roberts canceled hitting on the field. There was hitting in the cages. And then they took some infield to get used to the Wrigley Field.
Well, you as a player never, when they ask you about it, you're like, no, you never say, well, that was the reason.
You can't let your guard down.
No, you never say that. And you also don't necessarily always think it too when you're out there, because there's so many games you play tired anyway, and you're quite successful.
3-1 to David Ross is cut on and missed. 3-2.
The hard part to explain right now to the Dodger fans is it usually feels worse the second day.
Yeah.
Well, I think anybody can relate to that. When you don't get a good night of sleep, it's usually 2 days later that you really feel it.
Or if you happen to travel, you go travel across country and you feel kind of that jet lag. It's the second day you feel it.
Ross flies one into center. Here comes Peterson to slide and make the play. And 2 gone in the 6th inning.
Good jump by Jock Peterson right off of the bat. For any outfielder, any infielder, that ball will hit right at you. It's usually the most difficult and toughest to read. And that one he read perfectly.
Peered around the Seagulls to make the catch. Matt Caesar will pinch hit for Travis Wood. That means his day is finished after 4 perfect relief innings. 5 for 10 as a pinch hitter this year. Here's Wood. There's ball 1. Let's check in with Alana Rizzo.
Well, guys, while the players may not admit that the travel affects them, if the numbers have anything to say about it, it certainly does. Anytime the guys this season have traveled from one time zone, whether they're leaving LA or returning back to Los Angeles, the following game, they're 1-5 in those games. So while I certainly agree with you that it affects them more the second day, the numbers don't speak too well as far as the next game. 1-5 in those games, guys.
Cue shot from Caesar. You got to stay on it. You never know what it's going to hit up that first base line. 1-2.
Thinking about Caesar pinch hitting. Usually when a starting pitcher's dominating, you're going, gosh, you can't wait to get him out there. Just get to the bullpen because just get a different look. Get him out of there. Well, Dodgers, due to an injury, get to the bullpen early. And right now they're probably thinking, well, I'm glad that Travis Wood is getting pitch hit for right now, because he came in and just shut them down. He did a tremendous job.
12 up, 12 down for him. There's a 1-2. Slider bites outside. 2 balls and 2 strikes. More action down in the pen. It's Clayton Richard. Justin Grimm also starting to loosen. Dodgers will have Turner, Gonzalez, and Peterson due up in the 7th. Caesar bunts it, and it rolls foul. Kicked off the edge of the grass to stay at 2-2. They're actually going to call him out. Or there 2 strikes there?
Yes,
there are 2 strikes. That's why. 2-0 Cubs in front of the Dodgers. We go to the 7th. Newcomb's 90th birthday at the Dodger game Wednesday, June 8th, with the first 40,000 fans in attendance getting the Don Newcomb bobblehead presented by United Healthcare. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Big number 90 coming up for Nuke. Justin Grimm comes into the game, third pitcher of the day for the Cubs, replacing Travis Wood, who had 4 perfect relief innings after Jason Hamill left the game following the second with an injury.
Travis Wood's longest outing prior to today was an inning and 2/3, so he gave the Cubs outstanding work to go 4 hitless innings here. Caesar, who bunted with 2 strikes and struck out, is going to take over in left field.
Replaces Jorge Soler out there. Justin Turner has the only Dodger hit today. Back in the first inning, Gonzalez followed that base hit with a walk. Those are the only base runners. Remember, Turner's hit was on a routine fly ball to right center that fell in thanks to the bright sunshine. Hayward and Zobrist and Baez all had issues coming together on it. It's the only hit. Right at Anderson Russell. Justin Grimm in his 4th season in a Cubs uniform, former Texas Ranger, just like this guy, Adrian Gonzalez. When you think about Adrian early in his career, you think about the Padres, but he actually debuted with Texas.
He was definitely misunderstood and miscast in Texas. They did not foresee Adrian Gonzalez turning into what he has done.
Drives one off the end of the bat, foul. It's 1-1.
What a series he just came from in New York. 8 hits there, a couple of big home runs.
Game winner last night. What we've seen from Adrian, you know, we've seen him how he stays inside the ball going the other way, and the Cubs really don't put the shift on him. You know, they're playing him to pull. You see the second baseman. You don't see the shortstop or the third baseman playing on the second base side. So they're respecting his ability to spray the ball around.
Might be changing because Adrian's been starting to use that left field side. Actually showing bunt too sometimes. He and Chase Utley, Corey Seager.
He showed bunt on this at bat, the very first pitch. But I wonder if it was, I don't know if he was really thinking about it because they really didn't shift, or just almost to show it.
Over the top of a breaking ball, 2 gone.
Right now from the offensive side, the bullpen for the Cubs have really kept them in check.
That was the longest relief outing of Travis Wood's career. 4 perfect innings. He's a former starter, so length is what he gives you. Jock Peterson now trying to snap a string of 18 consecutive hitters up to the plate, right back to the dugout.
There's about an inning here at Wrigley Field where the sun starts glaring through the third base side of the stands, and the right-handed pitcher, the sun is right in your eyes as you release the ball. And it's right about now that it starts to get dangerous. When I pitched here and that light would come through there, I kind of bend my hat down on the right side to just try and protect your eyes a little bit. But there are times in the year that it really starts coming right in there, and it's dangerous to be standing 60 feet 6 inches from a big league hitter and maybe not being able to see the ball come back at you.
So you bent it for a purpose.
Oh, for sure.
Sometimes they're bent now.
For style?
I don't know if it's just style or something. They're like, oh, it's just comfortable that way.
Well, you've always been fashion forward.
Especially with my hats.
Justin Grimm to Jock Peterson with a 1-2 pitch. Again, this Cubs bullpen, the least used bullpen in baseball this year because the starters have been so good at getting deep into games. But when they have been used, they've been good. Only the Nationals in the National League have a better earned run average out of their bullpen. Grimm's 2-2, and Peterson swings and fouls it off himself in the box. We'll do it again. See you guys waving next door. Cubs legend Ryan Sandberg over there in the home TV booth.
Yeah, just took a picture of him waving. I'm going to tweet it out.
All right. Sorry to spoil the Twitter surprise.
That's it. Maybe I'll get 5 more followers.
Yeah, now you got to go follow at Oral Hershiser. Is your number in there, 55, or is it just the name?
I haven't gone to my site often enough to know
what your handle is. Bounce to first. Rizzo steps on the bag. I think you could probably get away with just your name. I don't know too many guys with your name. So, yeah, I bet it's just at Oral Hershiser. Work by our crew here in Chicago. Cubs in front of the Dodgers 2-0. Bottom of the 7th inning, and the newest Dodger into the game, Casey Fiend, who was claimed off of waivers in early May. Minnesota was really impressive in his Dodger debut Saturday night.
Struck out the side in order in the 9th inning, and has really shown good stuff. Of course, when you do that, but coming in, when you get over here with a new team, you like to get off to a very fast start, and you can see his giving himself a pep talk to be aggressive and get after it, and that's a really good vibe for the fielders playing behind you.
He was with the Twins. He had an ERA around 8 this year, but what the front office has seen is pretty consistent numbers for the previous years, and a potential rebound candidate.
Well, that's the story with Lewis Coleman.
Yeah.
The great years in Kansas City, and then all of a sudden kind of gets a flat tire, and then got the air back in the tires, and is doing great here with the Dodgers.
Ben Zobrist, Jason Hayward, Chris Bryant. Won't be easy for Feed. So hard to find pieces like that, but that's what you've got to do when you're trying to help construct the bullpen. Is find guys who you think have the ability to recapture form that they've proven earlier in their careers.
Building a bullpen is really the Achilles heel of most general managers. If you have really good pieces, or you go get somebody who just had a really good year, that means the guy probably had a lot of ups and a lot of ins. And sometimes those relievers get on that every other year cycle because they don't get used much or get up as much when they're having a down year, and then they're recovered from that lack of work, and then they have a big year. So it's really nice when you have somebody like a J.P. Howell or a Kenley Jansen that continually have year after year after year out of the bullpen do really well.
Achilles heel for most GMs because it's just simply volatile. It's a difficult thing oftentimes to construct. 2-2 on Ben Zobrist.
Those guys in the pen, you know, the key integral parts, the 6th, 7th, 8th inning guys, and your closer, of course, you know, they're walking a tight rope. And sometimes the wind blows, you fall off of it. It's pretty drastic.
Actually 3-2. Zobrist corks a fly ball to deep center. Peterson back for the first out. Had his big league debut with the Tigers back in 2009, a couple of years there. Then spent 2011 in the minors before joining the Twins in 2012. And talking about the potential to recapture previous form, from 2012 to 2015, was in there pretty much all season long in Minnesota. Staple of the bullpen with an ERA around 3.5 and several percent above league average when you're looking at OPS plus, which takes a pitcher, puts him on a scale with 100 being league average, any number above that being above league average, any number below that below league average. I said OPS plus, actually ERA plus. His was 115. So 15% above the league average, 12 through 15 in Minnesota. 1-0 to Jason Hayward, who swung on and missed. 1 ball, 1 strike.
The pitchers are just a grip change or a mechanical adjustment from getting hit around to striking people out.
Hayward in the air to center. Jock shielding his eyes, drifting on for out number 2. So he's retired the first 5 men that he's faced in a Dodger uniform. 2 gone in the 7th, and up comes Chris Bryant. Jock having to deal with them Seagulls now. Starting to settle in here at Wrigley as the sun drops. Lake Michigan not too far from here. In fact, you can see Lake Michigan from our perch in the Wrigley Field broadcast booth.
On a day like today, you can see a lot of things.
If you look closely, you can see my house across the lake in Grand Rapids.
Mike Levy, our producer, just said in my ear, you can see Canada.
Joe, is it the white one right there?
Yeah, yeah, that one.
The big white one.
Yeah, right. Got anybody interested?
That's just a guest house.
Ball and 1 strike on Bryant. You guys.
That house is going to be fuller in about 2 to 3 weeks. Libby bringing on home the first child for Mr. Joe Davis.
That's right.
That's why she's not here with us.
Back home watching.
You guys still won't give up the possible names.
I mean, I've told you one of them. Old Omar Davis.
You're a play-by-play guy in the big leagues for the Dodgers, and you won't give up your children's possible name.
Nope.
Your child's possible name.
Yeah.
I thought there was
There's
twins
just
in
one
there.
of them. That'd be a surprise. Bryant strikes out swinging. Casey Fiend looking like a nice find so far. He's retired all 6 men that he's faced in a Dodger uniform. See if the offense can get going. On to the 8th. is brought to you by BMW. See a Southern California BMW Center today for exceptional offers, or visit SoCalBMW.com. And by Children's Hospital Los Angeles, we treat kids better. Dodgers looking for their first base runner since the first inning. Here's Pedro Strop. Went Hamill for 2 innings, then Travis Wood 4 perfect relief innings. An inning from Clayton Richard, and now Strop. He's got a .284 earned run average here in his 4th year in a Chicago uniform. Grandal, Puig, and Crawford do up. Strike one on that slider. Filthy stuff from Strop. We mentioned the 4 innings of perfect relief. Travis Wood, as a quick pitch from Strop goes in there for strike 2. But Wood was the first Cub to throw 4 more innings of perfect relief since 1982. And Randy Martz did it. A lot of time, didn't get it.
Don't have to come set when you're pitching on the stretch with nobody on. It's part considered a windup. When he does come set, and then other times he doesn't, he can alter his delivery. Backdoor slider that catches the edge.
Yasmani wasn't happy with any of those 3 pitches.
Yasiel Puig is 0 for 2. Bunch of so the Seagulls have landed at right center. Time of day they always come in here.
Frame from San Fran.
That's what I was going to say. The ones at San Francisco are trained to know when the game's over.
Those ones are still learning, I guess.
I think the 4 o'clock start. They heard it was a 1 o'clock.
Messed up.
And then got switched, so they're like they didn't get the updated schedule.
Nobody texted them.
Place will be filled, like you said, though, after the game. The place fills up with them. 1-2 to Puig. He's off his slider. 2-2.
Like, why are all these people sitting on our food?
Back with the rooftop seats. Go on top of the stadium. Puig breaks his back. We'll go get a new piece of lumber for another 2-2.
You know, Omar, we talk about hitters' backgrounds. With the birds out there being white and a right-handed pitcher, and they're kind of there in left center, does that hurt you visually?
What?
Like that one?
Yeah.
What you're saying? Perfect timing right there to see that. You want to say no, because usually I'm really focused on him releasing the ball.
I know in Candlestick, with all the hot dog wrappers blowing around, that I like to throw to the hitters when those are blowing in front of them.
Yeah.
Puig down on strikes. It's back-to-back hitters Strop gets. Back-to-back hitters unhappy with the calls. Might have a case.
That one was close.
That one was really close. I mean, as a pitcher, I'm bent towards.
And as a hitter, I'm saying, I thought he held up.
Caesar runs under a fly ball from Crawford, and the inning is over. Dodgers without a base runner since a single and a walk in the first inning. 2-0 to the bottom of the 8th. The #1 live streaming sports service delivers everything you've come to expect and more. You can watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. This includes a free subscription to AtBat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. J.P. Howell comes into the game for the Dodgers, trying to continue on strong relief work from Lewis Coleman and Casey Fee. Bullpen over the last 35 2/3 now, with an ERA below 1.5.
They have been hot, they've been cold, and they are really hot right now. JP looks Rizzo right there, but the bullpen has really come around, and they're a strength right now to this team. It's right on the tricep of the right arm.
He gets hit as much as any player in baseball with the way he crowds the plate, how he does. Federovich bats here in the 8th inning with the Cubs in front 2-0. Both runs coming in the 5th against Alex Wood. RBI hits Jason Hayward and Anthony Rizzo. Strike one. 9-1-2 due up for the Dodgers in the 9th inning. Likely against Hector Rondon. Because the Cubs have blown everybody out, they've only had 12 save opportunities all year. I think of a team that's winning a lot of games, you typically think there's going to be save opportunities, but more than half of their wins have come by 5 or more runs, and so only 12 save opportunities all year.
It's a good problem to have, I guess. And that means that as they get deeper into the season, they're going to have a rested bullpen, an effective bullpen, so they won't have to worry quite as much about wear and tear. And how is that possibly pitching into October going to work against the staff? So Madden's going to be able to join the hair club. What's it, the hair color for men?
Just for men, Joe?
Just for men, yeah. He's gone all gray.
You know, they have a version of that is touch of gray, just if you want to add a little gray to it.
Oh, you can add?
You can add a touch of gray.
What's that called? Silver Fox?
Touch of gray, just for men. Touch of gray, yeah.
Hence the name?
Yeah. Blocked nicely by Grandal. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
So sure it adds it to it, or it doesn't just not cover everything?
Maybe that's what it is. I'm not gonna pretend to be an expert on it.
Oh, okay.
Definitely not. It's probably that.
He hasn't even had his first child.
Let alone know
about gray hair.
Any in there?
He's looking to see if he has any.
Talking about the Cubs and the way they've been blowing teams out. I mentioned the run differential off of the top. Just what it sounds like if you're not familiar with the category. But their run differential plus 131 this year. Last year, at the end of the year, the best run differential was 122 for the Cardinals. And the Cubs have already built up a 131 run differential between runs scored and runs allowed. It's on pace for a run differential greater than 400, which has happened one time in the modern era, back to 1900, 1939 New York Yankees. Now the ground is short. Seager's got it. There's one. There's two.
Yep.
6-4-3 and 2 away in the 8th.
Great turn by Chase Utley to back off the bag there. It's one time that the new rule really didn't mess up his feet, his footing.
I think now guys are stay in there so much longer. And now, you know, it's almost where you have some guys here going, well, if I just stay in, I know they're not going to necessarily slide. They'll slide into the bag, but if I'm just off and they slide into, maybe I'll get the double play. Where it's supposed to protect you. You know, now it's almost like, oh, I can almost play for getting hit and see if I can get the call.
Especially if you think you're going to be late.
Right.
Howells 2-0. Russell lines a base hit into center. Second hit of the day for Addison Russell, and this 8th inning continues.
The last 2 bats that J.P. Howell has faced, and I mean the bats, he's broken them both. One for a double play and that for a busted bat base hit. Has him out in front, hit off the end of the bat. Bat shattered.
JP just slammed the rosin bag down to the mound. Wanted to be able to finish this inning. Instead, Dave Roberts will bring out Pedro Baez in a 2-0 game in the 8th inning. Pedro trying to keep it right here and give the Dodgers their best shot in the ninth. Baez with 2 gone in the 8th and a runner at first base. Dave Roberts brings his righty on to face the right-handed hitting Javi Baez.
Pedro Baez last outing. The one I'm thinking of is where Curtis Granderson hit the walk-off off, and they're just trying to get him out here. Even with 2 out of man at first, trying to restore some of the confidence for him. Did he go out there and use that 97 to 98 mile-an-hour fastball and just attack the hitters?
So earlier we had Alex Wood against Travis Wood. We got Pedro Baez against Javier Baez. Goes after a fastball at 97 above the letters. Strike 1. 1 for 3 today with a single. 5 for his last 32. Giants lost today to the Braves. Giants had won 14 of 16, starting a 4-game set in Atlanta, and Jeff Samardzija took the defeat 5-2.
They lost earlier today with the, I'm sure Dodger fans back home noticing that, knowing that, going, the Dodgers here have an opportunity to try to make up some ground on the Giants as well as they've been playing. And this has been a close ball game. I mean, I know it's close ball game as far as runs are concerned. It's just 2-0, but hasn't really felt that close the way the pitching staff has dominated the Dodger hitters.
Really, we're a bright sun away from the Dodgers being 3 outs away from being no hit. Only hit came when Jason Hayward in center, Ben Zobrist in right, Javier Baez at second had a hard time coming together on a fly ball from Justin Turner that fell in for a single. Baez to Baez with an 0-2. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Talking about that one hit. Well, it's really just been one hit in the last 2 games they faced, because the last time they faced the Cubs, Arrieta threw that no-hitter versus the Dodgers.
Yeah, they get Arrieta tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's going to feel a lot better. They can come back in the 9th. Pedro get him out of this inning and come back in the 9th.
Jake Arrieta, 9-0 for the Cubs. That no-hitter that he threw against the Dodgers last year, part of a string of 23 consecutive starts that he's made where the Cubs have won. It ties the major league record, which was set previously by kind of an unlikely guy, Chris Medlin in Atlanta, 2010 through 2012. The Braves won 23 consecutive Chris Medlin starts. As pops this one in the infield. Chase Utley steps into the shadows and the inning is over. Dodgers will try and get it done against Hector Rondon. We go to the 9th inning, 2-0 Chicago. Rondon to try and close it for the Cubs. He's 8 for 8 this year, but guys, this is only his 2nd save opportunity in the last 3 weeks.
Well, hopefully for the Dodgers, he's rusty.
Yeah. Least used bullpen in baseball. One, because starters have gone deep. Rondon used so infrequently because he's really needed in save situations. Howie Kendrick leads off the inning and fouls off a 96-mile-per-hour fastball. Kendrick, then Utley, then Seager. Dodgers trying to add to the 9th inning magic they've created on this road trip. Friday night scored the 4 runs against Familia. Ultimately lost that game in the bottom half. A remarkable rally, and then last night 2-run single to break a 2-2 tie in the 9th. 1-2 on Kendrick. 28-year-old Hector Rondon to Howie Kendrick. 2-2. Out of Venezuela. Third year as a Cubs closer. Has a sign from David Ross and brings it 2-2. Rule 5 pick. It's drafted by the Indians. Really nice find by this Cubs front office. He's turned into a dominant reliever. And he's got out number 1 in the ninth.
A lot of different ways to become a Rule 5 pick, depending on, first of all, you have to have a certain number of years in professional baseball, and then once you achieve that, if somebody offers you the contract, the organization you're with, let's say a AA contract, and then in the winter meetings somebody says I'll put him on a AAA contract, they can snatch you away from one organization to the other.
Utley on the ground is second. Javier Baez, 2 up and 2 down. Scott Kazmir, Jake Arrieta tomorrow in game 2 of this 4-game set. Seager trying to reach, keep the line moving for Turner. Boyer struck out all 3 times after 3 consecutive 2-hit games in New York. $41,470 on this Memorial Day at Wrigley Field. All standing with the Dodgers down to their final strike. After Seager's first inning strikeout, Turner singled, Gonzalez walked. Dodgers have not had a base runner since. 24 consecutive men retired by Cubs pitching. Rondon delivers another 2-2. Seager on the ground is second. Baez has him. The Cubs take the opener 2-0. 25 straight retired by the Cubs after the 2 first-inning base runners.
It's just a dominant performance by that bullpen, especially after their starter, Jason Hamo, goes out with like a cramp in the hamstring. At least that's what they're hoping for. And the Dodgers just couldn't get anything going from the offensive side. And you look at the score, as we mentioned, just being a 2-0 game, but it seems like it was such a bigger lead because of the way the Cubs bullpen dominated those bats.
On the pitching side, you know what? For the long term, it looked good. Alex Wood could deserve a better result, and the bullpen came in and threw shutout ball and gave him a chance to come back.
He'll go tomorrow. Jake Arrieta comes. Will try and snap his 23.